go, Charles. Working on the fade out for the music, and it disappeared. Yep, and that's not the right image to be up there. Sorry about that, Charles.
That's
there we go.
All right.
There we go.
That's all right. I mean, this one, this art department is now making $10 million a week
right.
for all the raises. But, I mean, this is really a classic. This one.
Well, thank you.
I mean, it's really amazing.
I'm pleased that you like it.
As our regular viewers know, I first see the draft of this on a phone, and you can't really, on my phone anyway, with my eyes, I can't really see these fine details. But to have the combo of Jeffrey Epstein slouched the way he is there, driving the bus, and Bill, dressed the way he probably does dress.
Well, it's like
with that look, with the respective looks.
Hey, little girl, come onto the bus.
And
well, and I don't know if you've noticed this detail, Charles, but the bus he's driving is the Clinton Foundation.
Of course, on everything, right?
We've got Little Miss Sunshine.
Little Miss Sunshine and Webster Hubbell's daughter, right?
Right. And then we got,
Comey in a straitjacket.
James Jackass Comey.
And Barack Obama looking pretty Urkelish there, pushing the bus.
Pushing the bus.
In the back of the bus.
Well, that wasn't the intention. He's pushing it. He's pushing the boundaries, Charles.
And then Hillary Clinton in her capri outfit, capri pants.
Yeah, I don't know what she's got going on there, but this was a good movie. I remember seeing it when it was out. I don't know, it was a few years ago at this point, right?
Yeah, and like a bad horror movie, Hillary Clinton is back. I mean, this monster. They kill it in the 15 minutes into the movie, and 30 minutes into the movie, and 90 minutes into the movie, and the damn thing is not dead yet.
Well, it's like that's why the Terminator episodes have been so appropriate with Hillary as the undying, heartless killing machine that absolutely will not stop until everything is destroyed.
Yeah. But it really, when you put these together now, this is episode 195. It would be, I really don't know the best way to try to show all this kind of stuff. I keep leaning to electronic versus paper, but
I got to look back to the book. It was just very expensive at the time that I was looking at it, and there's so many other things that I'm dealing with. I don't know if I told you about this, Charles, but there's been an attack on the channel again, and people who are watching us right now are going to be watching live either on Crowdsource the Truth 2 or Facebook or Periscope or DLive or VK.com, and then after the show goes on YouTube, then it gets to BitChute. So a lot of people have been sharing ideas with me as far as how I can overcome some of these issues with YouTube. The best way for people to help me counteract these malicious attacks from social engineers is for them to become sponsors and to watch the show on one of the monetized platforms like Subscribestar or Patreon. And the added benefit is that if people become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, they get access to a vast library of sponsor-exclusive content that they don't see anywhere else. They're supporting independent journalism, they're keeping this show alive, and it just sends a message to these social engineers that they can't control what people see, corporations can't control what people see, and it's a great way to lead into 2020. Right now, no live streaming on Crowdsource the Truth's main channel until March of 2020, and YouTube has eliminated, even though in their instructions that they emailed to me, they said you can counterclaim this strike by going to the control panel and clicking on, whatever. Counterclaim is no longer there.
There must be some other way of doing it, though. Seems awfully one-sided.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
So the best way for people to help me handle it is to just become sponsors on some platform that's not YouTube, but I am working to reinstate the live streaming on the YouTube channel. It's the biggest video platform, and what I was trying to explain to people is that part of the way that YouTube is suppressing these alternate platforms is that they've just made a platform that is so robust and so good and free, it's incredibly difficult for anyone to create a startup company that can compete. It's anti-competitive, something that William Barr was speaking, who was he speaking with about that?
I forget whether it was the Wall Street Journal or Gerard Baker, or Gerald, whatever his name is. But seriously, this art department is kick-ass,
Thank you.
and you know, I would imagine if we were ever to take, say, 52 of the best covers and have them rotate through, you know, with music in the background or something like that, it would be something that you could sit there, should you want to just relax with or without medicinal help of legal or illegal type.
Oh.
And you could probably pass several hours just watching that and listening to music.
There is the screensaver, and people who become sponsors at the $10 per month level get the free Sunday with Charles screensaver. I think it might be time to do a volume 2 of the Sunday with Charles screensaver. I got to get back to that software that I used to create that. There's just so many things going on. I've got the lawsuits happening, constantly trying to do more shows, and the holidays are coming up.
Well, you should just, you know, put the editing department on that one.
Yeah, right. All these departments. It's a compartmentalized operation, Charles.
Well, we've got a lot to cover today, so maybe we should leave this beautiful poster and dive into the words.
Absolutely. The words are art in and of themselves, and hopefully people who are watching us right now will become subscribers on Crowdsource The Truth 2 and help that channel grow. That's the backup YouTube channel. I'm trying to get rid of this here. Okay, the slides. Here we go.
Yeah. So I think we've been talking about this for quite a while, that Hillary's plan, and I think Michelle's plan as well, are to talk this gigantic game about how we need a process and that people need to be heard, and, you know, let these, while at the same time they're decrying climate change and excessive use of or creation of greenhouse gases. We have this spectacle with all these, you know, millionaires and billionaires going around the United States, and indeed in some cases internationally, flying private planes, campaigning to be president, the Democrat candidate for president. Meanwhile, I seriously think Hillary and likely Michelle both believe that they can, you know, be in the outskirts, not really subjected to criticism, let the other people fail epically, as they seem to be doing on a daily basis, and reach a place, whenever the convention's going to be, I think June, July next year, where by acclamation in a brokered convention, you know, the heavens will open up, or actually probably the earth below will open up, and up from hell will come Hillary Clinton to be, you know, nominated by acclamation.
What is acclamation?
Well, when all these other bloodied people, you know, Biden is on his way to prison for Ukraine and more, and you just tick off the various people who are imploding, whether it's Bernie for being linked to these anti-Semitic people, or you just go down the list of people who are being blown up as we get to the convention, save for Hillary Clinton and save for Michelle. You know, it's one thing to believe that you're going to have a smoke-filled room, select a presidential candidate on the Republican side. You know, that might be more expected. But in the case of the Democrats, you'd really think that all these people who are saying, you know, Trump's a dictator and Trump's going to be around forever, would like to see a process where actually all the reasonable candidates on the Democratic side are heard, and you have some real contest. But right now, the way Hillary's behaving, and of course she has all this money, and Barack and Michelle have a lot of money, you know, they're a cloud, I would think, not merely over the United States, but they're a cloud over this democratic process, or the process of selecting a presidential candidate for the Democrat side.
Not an Amazon.com cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
But a dark, stinky cloud.
Right. But you know what? I was talking to a few people around the world, various ways, and a plug actually for one method that I use. There's this thing called Signal.
Oh yeah.
I highly recommend that app. Well, it's working for me.
I mean, it works, but the thing with all of those apps is that Signal is an app that purports to be some kind of encrypted communication system. I don't believe that for a second. I think they put that out there and they tell you it's encrypted so that you will...
Well, I just talk about connection, the ability to reach people, it's free, whatever. And I have to talk to people all over the world, so it's just useful to have I have multiple ways of doing that now, so that's good. Anyway, it's wrong, I think, to accept the framing that these idiots in the lamestream press want us to accept, which is it's a contest between Republicans and Democrats, with independents trying to decide whether they want to put on the R or the D come voting time. No, it's a contest between corrupt people who have made a lot of money off the status quo of unregulated globalism, and disruptors. Constructive disruptors who would like to see the system reformed, would like to see justice restored in the United States of America and other rich countries, and destructive disruptors like George Soros and others who want to profit from the chaos. That's the real contest. And to get all tied up about, oh, you're a conservative, or you're a liberal, or you're a progressive. You're either for the corrupt status quo, as many in the Republican Party are, and certainly across the Democratic Party, and across these cities and states that are locked down under the boot of people who claim they're Democrats, but they're just simply all in for corruption. You think about New York State, for example, you think about California, you think about city after city after city where the Democratic machine has been there forever, touting the need for this program or that program. Really what it's all about is keep that crooked cash coming so that we can mire everybody in misery, and every election year talk about how miserable it is and how much better it'll be if you just trust us. And this man, it's just, when you think about his career, I was over at Barnes & Noble today looking for a few things, and I see that he's written yet another turgid book defending his Open Secrets Foundation or Open Society Foundation or whatever it is. This person, his long career should be studied really by in this case, conservatives and progressives, people who understand economics in the case of conservatives, because most progressives do not, but people who understand corruption or are fighting corruption. I said a lot of them are on the progressive side.
He could be a case study for that.
Exactly. Go over this guy's career. How exactly did he make his money? And Bill Clinton's standard for his foundation is, well, we did more good than harm, which is not, of course, the standard. In the case of George Soros, has he done more good than harm? Thinking about the number of nations around the world where he's encouraged them to spiral into chaos, and measuring up the donations, in theory, that his charities have given with the personal financial benefits that he's derived over time. And this man and his whole life needs to be made an example of, so that people worse than him don't ever inhabit the earth. But I fear what will happen is this guy will croak, and then all of a sudden, everybody in the mainstream media who wants grants.
How great he was.
Oh, he was a lion, a visionary, and we'll have to endure all that. Caligula, he should rename his foundation the Caligula Foundation.
Wasn't Caligula like an orgy or something?
Caligula was a corrupt Roman emperor. He was.
But the movie about him was an orgy, wasn't it? It was produced. It was produced by what's his name, Bob Guccione.
Was it really?
Or maybe it was directed by him.
Really? Yeah. There's a fine family. Yeah, I bet you that I know somebody who dated a Guccione.
I know Nick Guccione.
So you know his wife?
I never met his wife. He had contacted 21st Century 3D wanting to get into 3D, and I had several meetings with him, but never.
Nick married.
Also somebody named Nikki.
Right, Nikki Guccione, who I was living in Rhinebeck and looking at property, and I call about a certain listing, and this nice lady answers the phone, and it comes out to show me the property, gets out of her car, and it's like, whoa, who is this?
Yeah, she's a model.
What's the really interesting thing about her is that she's also extremely intelligent. Some people will say they're Mensa and they're not that smart. She's Mensa and smart.
Well, I'll be clear. I like Nick Guccione. He's a nice guy.
I don't know. I've never met him.
Never.
But I believe that Ann Coulter dated
Nick Guccione.
Not Nick, but does he have a brother or?
There might be an older brother. I don't know all that much. Like I said, I've met the guy a few times, been to like a Chinese restaurant with him and spoken to him on the phone many times. We never actually got into a project though.
Who bought his house, the Guccione house in New York?
I don't know, but towards the end of his life, he definitely ran into financial hard times, and I did have a conversation with Nick in which that house that you're talking about was being sold because he's broke.
Right, the one in the townhouse right near Epstein's townhouse. It's not his townhouse, but it's a double townhouse.
Yeah, I've been in it.
Really?
Yeah, friend of mine in PR they were launching some magazine, and there was a party at that townhouse that I went to.
And you enjoy it? You give me that look.
I mean, nothing crazy went on at the party, but...
Not for want of trying.
Right, because Bob Guccione published a number of magazines in addition to Penthouse. He produced Omni, and he was very into his Nick's mother died of cancer, and Bob Guccione was lost after that. This woman was the love of his life, and so he was very interested in alternative cancer remedies. And he was kind of, I don't know, it's a bit of a sad story. I like Nick Guccione. He's a very nice guy, was always honest with me. No beef with Nick Guccione.
Good, let's get back into it.
Yeah.
So what we have here, I think, we have the reaction, and I haven't put this into the slides, of Comey and Schiff saying, well, maybe we were wrong, now.
Yeah.
But that's just like that. That's like those guys, you see them on the street corner. Absolutely. In 1984, the world is going to go off and veer off away from the sun and never come back, specifically at this time in 1984. And then that doesn't happen, and more often than not, you don't see that person ever again. Right. In this case, these people have been crying wolf, crying bullshit, for quite a while now, and under assault by the brave people in different aspects of life, whether they're in media, yourself and others. You cry bullshit on all this, and the first thing you're told is, well, you're a conspiracy theorist. Right. That approach of yours is debunked.
Right.
Now, when these people get debunked and have to admit they're debunking themselves, it's like, well, yeah, okay, maybe I was wrong. And we're just supposed to say, oh, okay, Jim, that's fine. Why don't you keep all your money? Other people are in jail for what you've done, but you should just, you were wrong. You made an honest mistake. You didn't have an intent to be wrong. Why don't we exonerate yourself? I mean, it's just preposterous. And there has to be, and Trump apparently during the day today has been making this point, quite aggressively. There have to be consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not just any old person. This is the guy who was the FBI director.
Right.
And he had a lot of people who went way off the rails. He's like, oh, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, maybe. My bad. Yeah.
Exactly.
That interview with Chris Wallace is amazing because he's like, well, I didn't say that. And Chris Wallace is like, but you did. Did you hear the clip? He's like, no, I didn't. He's like, you did.
No, I didn't.
It's like, yeah, we meant the same thing. Next question.
That's right. When I said yes, I meant no.
I don't know. I mean, you know what? To me, that interview felt like they were like, okay, Jim, we're going to give you a hard interview. But clearly, I think Chris Wallace was given boundaries. There were certain things he was going to ask about and certain things he wasn't. I mean, that wasn't the interview that I would have given to Jim Comey.
Right. Yeah, the interview I would have given to Jim Comey would involve arriving at his house at 3 o'clock in the morning, putting him on a whatever it is, cargo plane, taking him to that hotel in Saudi Arabia.
Hang him upside down.
From the ballroom at the top with a pit of sulfuric acid underneath him, and just put a little sliver against the rope holding him up there and then start asking him a few questions.
I think a lot of people haven't given enough thought to the close time proximity of that Saudi Arabian jailing in the hotel
and Las Vegas
shooting. Yeah.
So what I think we're in the process of doing now that, and I actually didn't specifically call this one out, but now that Boris Johnson has won such a commanding victory in the election, and I loved during the day, it was just like as happened to me in 2016 on Election Day, I was reading different press reports coming out of the lamestream UK publications saying, there's going to be a youthquake. The lines across the United Kingdom are filled with millennial voters who are going to come out in droves to support Jeremy Corbyn. This is going to be a stunning rebuke to Trump, a stunning rebuke to anybody who supports, revitalizing, leaving the European Union. And then this was an ass kicking. I mean,
it was just a flesh wound.
No, he's not. He's resting.
Look at the guy standing behind him. Isn't that the knight with the flesh wound?
Yeah, there you go. None shall pass.
Yeah.
That's a funny skit.
Pretty funny, yeah.
That's very good.
Hanging out there with the knight
there he
and
is.
the rabbit.
Yeah. And, but in as I understand it, in the American equivalent of what's happened here is that Boris Johnson has not only won the U.S. presidency, but he's won control of the important house, the House of Commons. I don't know what happened to the House of Lords, whether he also has a majority there. But
is that like the equivalent of the Senate and the House?
Not so much, because I don't know if it's still the case that in the House of Lords there were some people who held hereditary seats, so it's not, and it's not the brightest bulbs on the planet in that one. Well, it's similar to the Senate, I suppose.
Well, at least they know how many holes it takes to fill the House of Lords.
Exactly.
Just found that out.
But I think there's now in process, if you think about where the chips lie in the grand bargain that's out there, we're going to get into some of this math in a second. The most important, in financial terms, the most important consumer market in the world is the United States.
Right.
Nothing comes close to it. And it just when you're thinking as a business person, if you've got something you could sell globally, where do you need to sell it? You need to sell it in the U.S., because if you don't do that, you're not a serious player. So Trump has revitalized the U.S. market. Some of these tax moves and other moves that he's put into place and got Congress to pass and put into legislation are only now beginning to bear the kind of fruit that will really start to multiply and make this even more dynamic market. On the other hand, Bojo is sitting there in the UK, which is an important market, but it's 1/10 the size of ours. And it's got a lot of structural issues he's got to work his way through. He's going to need as much help as he can. So if the UK people can immediately get a free trade or into a free trade agreement with the US, it's going to give UK business an advantage against the French, against the remainers in the EU. So the Germanys, the Italy, anybody who stays in it is hobbled by the EU will suffer compared to the UK. And on the other hand, now Trump can say, all right, listen, Judge Knapp, when he was the good version of Judge Knapp a number of years ago, made the point and paid a heavy price. He was kicked off the air for a few days, of saying the way the spying occurred was that there was an informal arrangement, likely brokered, in my view, by the evil Brennan, CIA director, where the head of our CIA and the equivalent of the UK, or maybe it was slightly different branches, he said, all right, well, you've got your UK laws, we've got our US laws. Our US laws don't let us, in theory, spy on Americans, but you can do that. And your UK laws don't let you spy on UK citizens inside the UK, but we can do that. So we'll spy on your people if you spy on our people, and then we'll just exchange all this kind of stuff. So Trump has every right, frankly, and we Americans across the political spectrum have every right to understand what as a Southern friend of mine used to say, not what in the fuck, but what in the fuck was this idiot doing, and what were his counterparts doing, and how far back into history did this informal arrangement, off the books arrangement, how long ago did it start? My view is it probably started in 1945, or shortly thereafter, and it was accentuated in '89. That as we got to as China decided to, and India decided to embrace the beginnings of capitalism, as the Soviet Union blew up and Central Europe fell apart, I think the UK and US equivalents probably said, this is working pretty well, so why don't we get even closer together and promote our mutual investigations around the world together, and let our people who are not that well paid in government profit, off the books and black this and that ways, building up investments around the world. This whole corrupt, unregulated, international prospecting, ravaging method needs to be fully exposed. And I think Trump, if Bojo wants his free trade agreement, I think there's a simple ask that Trump will give him. That's like, what was happening?
Right.
Give us some scalps, and we'll give you some scalps too.
They seem to be kind of having a positive relationship, Trump and Boris Johnson, right?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they genuinely do.
Just looks like they have the same hairstylist.
Yeah, we'll know for certain when Johnson starts turning orange.
Well, but on a serious note, Charles, you know, we had Diana West joined us last week on the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp, and she was talking about, I got to tell you, you know, I was born in the 70s, right, and grew up in the 80s and 90s when the Cold War was basically over and ending, and so the threat of communism always seemed sort of overblown to me. But when you look at the Bill Browder contingent that made all of its money from the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the fact that Brennan and Comey and all these guys are admitted former communists. You look at Obama's connection with his grandfather being a Mau Mau and him being a Weather Underground weatherman, and his connections to Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn. They're communists for sure. We're having a covert communist uprising in the United States, and no one's even talking about it.
Well, and that's a side topic, but an important one. I mean, I look at these, because you know we live down here around these universities, and you go into these coffee shops, and there are all these damn scruffies, these men and women who wear wool caps. In the case of the men, they don't shave, and they wear these grungy clothes and these stupid backpacks, and they're sitting there with all these decals on them, decrying capitalism, and you know,
as they buy Starbucks,
as they buy a Starbucks coffee for $6.50 and eat some ridiculous
on their MacBook Pro,
their grilled cheese sandwich for $8. You know, they hate capitalism. Dad, could you put some more money in that trust fund?
Right.
Because I hate capitalism that much.
Yeah.
But you know, so the educational system has been, I would argue, destroyed. May not be too rough a word to say for what's happened to these elite institutions that now have gigantic endowments, so they don't really need their alumni. They have brand name professors who are all in for unregulated globalism. They have their grants from the government, they're tax exempt institutions, and they're teaching rubbish to these children.
Well, Bernardine Dohrn said in a audio recorded manifesto, guard your universities, guard your banks. And they were bombing banks, and they were bombing the cops, and they've infiltrated the university system and made everybody a communist.
Yeah, and so the good news in all that is that, you know, those of us who are out of college for a while now and may have access to some money, I mean, we can now go to Trump and go to various governments around the world and say, listen, you know, why do these big, gigantic educational institutions deserve to be tax exempt?
Right.
You know, Harvard was the authority to Harvard to operate as an educational institution. It wasn't called Harvard initially. Occurred in 1636. That's a while ago. And Yale 1701, I think. William and Mary 1690. These are universities today, or colleges or universities, that have gigantic endowments, that have 10 times or more applicants for each place. And so they don't really need the kind of financial support they currently enjoy. And to turn out a bunch of students who are trying to destroy the status quo and destroy the American Constitution and have us, you know, kowtow to the UN, which is ungovernable and the most corrupt organization outside the United States, or, you know, beyond a national level that I can imagine, is insane.
Yeah.
You know, we need to go back towards a more sensible place where our universities and indeed our feeder operations to universities encourage people to push back the frontiers of knowledge, or to advance the frontier of knowledge, to really do some positive stuff, as opposed to selling propaganda into the heads of impressionable pre-teenagers like Greta Thunberg.
Right.
Dumberg.
We don't want to get dinged for making fun of Greta, but I don't care.
I don't care either. So if we could go to the next page, start with just a quick reminder. It's been a year since my ex-wife passed away today.
Oh, Charles, I'm
sorry. And as you're mentioning about Guccione, from cancer. So, you know, you see all these appeals for cancer, and people give a lot of money to it'd be nice if we could actually cure the sucker. I mean,
I saw an amazing presentation where they were talking about resonant frequencies, and this goes back to Tesla, which a lot of people will say, yes, Tesla had the answer, but it showed this guy who's some opera singer who, like on YouTube, he'll take a glass and be like, ding, and listen to it. And then he can sing at the resonant frequency of the glass, and it shatters the glass. So then this doctor giving the presentation goes on to talk about how he's doing research to find the resonant frequency of different cancer cells, and then using ultrasound to vibrate the cells and exploding the cancer cells, but leaving the regular cells totally fine. And they've had amazing results.
Well, that would be nice. So the show that we put together now is a different sort of show for our new viewers. This is not an effort where we sit down and we're trying to lecture you about this is the propaganda moment of the day, or to give you the secret phrase that you're supposed to tell all your friends to use. This is an effort that began, Jason and I began it in June of 2000, this portion of it in June of 2017. And what we quickly realized when we started talking before we did all these shows was that the scandal was so big that it would be very difficult to explain it in just one show, and that there might be something valuable to be gained of show after show after show from different perspectives, particularly given that as time passes, people who want to look at this can go back and look at the evolution of our understanding, stuff that, you know, I know that various and sundry people tell me that the first time I talked to them about this conspiracy, an actual ongoing conspiracy, you know, yeah, they'd say, Charles, that would have to be one hell of a conspiracy. And I said, that's what I'm talking about. That's
we should have just done one 384-hour long episode.
Oh, we can just splice them all together.
How long can you stay awake, Charles?
That's right. Time-lapse photography. You know, you're sitting there, we both end up in the end as scruffies.
That's right.
Maybe what we'll have to do is do a show where we get those stupid hats and fake beards. And
that would be the true Charles or telethon.
But people always ask me, what can we do to help? And beyond, obviously, financially supporting Jason's effort, what really helps is suggesting that folks watch these episodes and send them to people who are inclined to believe. I mean, if James Comey is going to get up there, and Adam Shifty Schiff is going to get up today and say, well, maybe I was wrong.
Did Schiff say that?
Yeah, well, if I had known about these FISA abuses, I would have done something about it, apparently is what he said today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what, Adam? You're credible. You ought to go maybe run for Congress. Oh, you are in Congress. That's right. Maybe you should move to California. Oh, you are in California. Okay. I mean, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Or ass clown's a better way to describe him.
Total idiot.
So what we try to do here is we not only expose different ideas to people, but we give the audience a chance to check our work. And we provide these slides for most of the shows that perhaps, Jason, you could explain how to...
Sure. Well, now let me make sure that we've got the... whoops, we don't want to look at them.
Yeah, that...
No,
there you go.
We're talking about the playlist which we've assembled, and this is a handy thing, Charles, for new subscribers or people who are perhaps seeing the show for the first time. If you go to the Jason Goodman YouTube channel, which is currently lacking live streaming due to a malicious social engineering attack, you can still access the playlist that has every episode of Sunday with Charles, as well as every episode of Charles Ortel is Closing In, and you can easily access them just by clicking on each episode. And just about every one of them is going to have a link to download Charles's presentation, as well as links to the various sponsorship options. All you need to do is click on that hot link and it will bring it up right on your screen. There's a little icon up here in the corner that allows you to download it to your own computer, where you can save these, send them around to your friends, print them out, do whatever, make notes on there, follow along as we go. You can do a variety of excellent things with them, Charles.
That's great.
I think you could even crush them up and stuff a piñata with it if that was something that appealed to you.
But if you could go back to the playlist for a second.
Oh, sure.
One thing that's interesting to me as a non-media person, or entertainment media person, I was down in the Bahamas and staying with Sean Connery's best friend, and we got the subject of, how many movies had Sean Connery done and this and that. And I know Sean Connery is, one of the world's best actors ever, and I'm not comparing myself for this show to any of his work.
Because obviously none of his movies are nearly as good as Sunday with Charles.
Yeah, that's right. No. But the point, the body of work, I was amazed. I think I was told that Connery had done 93 movies or 95 movies or something like that, which is a lot, clearly a lot. Hell, he got paid in the early days, not much, but in the later days, a lot of money.
Right.
He's made a tremendous amount of money. But that being said, just, I'm a numbers person, and I like to think in terms of minutes of airtime. 195 now times 60 is a lot of minutes of airtime versus...
no, these are 120 minutes. 195 videos, most of them are 2 hours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 120, sorry. And so there's a lot, and that's on this channel. And you see here, this playlist alone has 31,000 views nearly. This is just people looking at the list of the movies.
Yeah.
Of the podcast. So I say all this not to brag, but just to say that, people will say, well, where's your evidence? Where's the support you have?
When's the last time anybody said that, though?
Not too recently.
Yeah. There's that guy on the street outside of
right.
Barnes and Noble.
A couple of years ago, yeah. But, we on purpose, we've tried to put this out there so that people who are curious, and people all over the world now are watching this, getting emails from all over the place, and really appreciate the interest and support from all these people. Don't appreciate this guy at all.
Well, I just wanted to show you this, Charles, because this is some last-minute good news. It appears they are preparing a congressional rubber room for Mr. Schiff. Look at that. It's very nice.
Yeah.
You straitjacket, Mr. Schiff? Excuse me?
He's just thinking, he's thinking about Ed Buck.
Actually, he would say, pardon me?
That's right.
I don't think so.
So, people who want to send constructive comments, criticism, can do that to my website and to us, both of us on Twitter. I don't, just a word of note that if you make the mistake of sending me a 20-page suggestion or drop everything to do this and that, I don't drop everything.
Charles,
to do
don't
anything.
roll that way.
That's not how I roll.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate constructive comments.
Always.
So, we have a lot of breaking news. I mean, this past week was just chock-a-block full of stuff. And I think people are soon going to be drawn into considering just how long has the Obama administration and the people stuck into it before, during, and after. How long have they been acting in bad faith? My argument would be that certainly the entire time that Barack Obama was president. We can start there.
Oh, well.
We'll start there. And before that, honestly, a good portion of the time that George W. was president. I mean, this going from Clinton to, people forget that the first challenge to the George W. Bush administration after he was sworn in, once he got through the Supreme Court, was the Chinese spy plane incident in May. I think it was around May.
The Chinese what?
Spy plane incident in 2001, when they pushed down an American spy plane operating in international territory.
And kept it.
And went through it and stuff like that.
That was Obama or that was Bush?
That was Bush.
Yeah.
And so that was approximately 4 months before 9/11. And the rush after 9/11 to embrace a state where we would give up our freedoms, to enable the NSA and others to have all of our communications and know where everybody was at every one point in time, and then the later evolution of Facebook, Google, and other things. I think in hindsight, if we were able to reconsider all these decisions, will be viewed as a massive set of errors. So I don't want to simply mean to be critical of Obama. I think there were many years of misadventures before he was sworn in January 20th, 2009. But when we think about the number of people, whether it's Cheryl Atkinson or others, who have risen up and in Atkinson's case actually sued people for illegal spying under the Barack Obama presidency, and who knows, maybe George W. Bush presidency as well. For the Attorney General of the United States to say that the FBI, under President Trump, even today arguably, has been acting in bad faith. I mean, that is big.
I love Comey's response. No, he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good evidence, James.
Yeah, that's great, James. You're one of you're a man. Why don't you write another book?
Total dope.
But this Conservative Treehouse, for people who do not go on to Conservative Treehouse, I really recommend it. I check it every day. And this is a long article that goes through just exactly how the various security systems likely were abused. And so it talks about how, even today, but under the Obama era and afterwards, if a contractor to the FBI or other security operation wanted to use this system, you could just say, I want a certain type of report, and you put in a name, or you put in an IP address, or you put in a phone number, and you would spit back a report that has a tremendous amount of information about anybody who has that phone number or has that email address or whatever. And I remember how disingenuous Barack Obama seemed. Remember that thing when there was concern over, well, we're just capturing your metadata. Mm-hmm. You know, and he said, oh, metadata, that sounds like, oh, I don't know what that is. So it's just metadata, right? Metadata is really serious stuff. And the idea that we should fall for this ridiculous argument that you hear out of people, well, if you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't be worried about this type of intrusion.
Yeah, the
Bullshit.
police should just come to your house and search through your underwear drawer.
If you got nothing to hide, what are you worried about? No.
Well, the biggest problem with that theory, in my opinion, Charles, is that it's a baby step toward, well, if you have nothing to hide, then why don't you just come to court and be on trial? If you're innocent, it's just put yourself right here and you have nothing to worry about. Right. And the next thing you know, you're in jail and you're like, well, you have nothing to hide. Right. You might as well go to jail.
Right. It just turns the whole system on its head. You know, this idea that the politicians are there to control the population is like not the deal. The Founding Fathers were all about the people in Washington, D.C. and the other state capitals have forgotten who works for whom.
Correct.
We don't work for James Comey. We don't work for the FBI. They work for us. Mm. And in the instances where you've got inveterate criminals who are dedicated to breaking the law constantly, obviously they have stuff to worry about.
Like
but
Congress.
Like
Congress.
But nonetheless, it's still the government's responsibility to frame up charges that are real, they're not framed.
Excellent choice of words.
Yeah. To come up with charges that are actually where there's a real basis for having them, to survive the process of going through a grand jury, to getting indictments handed down, then go convince the requisite standard. If it's criminal or civil, there are different standards. Win your conviction, sentence the people to prison, and have them serve the time. But this idea that suddenly the know-it-alls and Morning Schmo and the different TV shows or whatever are going to decide, who gets, tortured by this government that we're supposedly paying for, and who doesn't, who benefits from this government, who doesn't. That's not the deal, and that's why Trump has such a big job ahead of him. He has got to disabuse, by example, by setting examples, disabuse this gullible population of the idea that this is in any way reasonable, because it's not. This is a criminal conspiracy to subvert the Constitution for the benefit of the politically connected, and it needs to be exposed. Mm. And so then we really do need to have a lot of people testify under oath here. There was, when I think about the headline, the big picture of this process, June 2017 forward, remember, Mueller was appointed in May of 2017.
That's outside of my purview.
But he was appointed in May of 2017. The first question should be, when did people in the Obama administration, on the way out the door, when did they realize, or when did they have no alternative but to realize, that this Steele report was garbage? Mm. The Steele dossier was garbage. It was just sour grapes from Hillary Clinton and their team, an insurance policy to make America ungovernable should she lose. When did they know it was bullshit? When did Rosenstein know it was bullshit? Will Mueller ever understand that it was bullshit? And what penalties should fall upon Christopher Steele and others who are sowing the seeds of deception?
Why didn't they put him on as a witness?
Well, they're sowing the seeds. I mean, you think about what's happened here. People say, well, Russia's doing this and Russia's doing that. This crooked UK operation, these crooks in the UK and the US, the Clintons and others, and people in law firms, both in the US and the UK and other countries, have very successfully created a case today where, in the words of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, America has never been more divided. Okay, was that because of Trump, or was that because of these shit stirrers?
I think it was because of Hillary and Obama.
Right, and so, I mean, there really need to be some consequences here. Political parties shouldn't be hiring foreign firms to invent profoundly disturbing and absurd accusations against now the President of the United States that I think have been completely debunked about, the stay in Moscow and the P this and all that other stuff. That's just complete garbage, and people are still promoting this. I mean,
It's unbelievable.
I was looking and preparing for the show. I noticed the New Yorker magazine, which used to be a decent magazine, like it for the cartoons, and that's it now, had a real story saying the Steele dossier was real.
What?
Yeah. And like in my Twitter feed in the last several days, there's, in theory, in quotes, reputable people in the political pundits saying, the Steele dossier was real. Even now, it was real. These accusations have merit.
I'm just looking for a good New Yorker cartoon, but it's not there.
So
That's absurd. That's absurd. There hasn't been one piece of evidence that's supported any of that.
And in my good guy camp, this guy, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, he's hysterical. He's very smart and really funny.
Great name for politics.
Yeah. Did you hear what he said when he was on television?
I don't think so.
He said, I can't do the accent. I may try to do it, but they said, well, how did you feel, Senator Kennedy? He said, I felt like I was on acid.
Wow. What was he talking about?
Hearing about this Steele dossier, it seems like I'm on acid.
Jeez, that's a weird thing for him to say,
Yeah,
but
like,
okay.
so you were on acid once.
Now they're going to, try him.
But he's very, very smart, and he's making the essential point that, look, it's time, if these people are going to say us, we've got nothing to worry about the FIS court, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, because defendants or people accused by these or prosecuted in these proceedings don't have the benefit of having legal protection in the process. So, because don't worry about it, because every effort is to make sure that we're going to put your sorry ass in jail if we want to do it. This is the whole concept of the way they're doing this is preposterous. I could see saying that if you're not an American citizen, and we want to do this type of work, we could do it in this way, because if you're not American, you don't have the same protections under the Constitution that Americans do. I could see that approach, but I do not see the approach that an American could be put through the ringer like Carter Page. And now let's find out just how badly conflicted. Who was the presiding FISA judge, or FISC judge? Who was, I think it was this guy Contreras, who resigned suddenly in the middle of the process, or was off the case suddenly.
Oh.
What conflicts did he have? Right? Who did he know in this whole system? Was it Strzok? Was it Page? Was he having an affair with Page, for all we know? I mean, she's having affairs with everybody. What in the hell?
Oh, yeah, this guy.
Yeah, this guy.
There's been a lot of cases with this guy.
Right. So what the hell is up with this whole court? Do we
I don't
really
know if
need
Lisa
it?
Page would go for that.
Yeah, she went for Strzok.
He's better looking than this guy.
Yeah, we're talking a continuum of fugly.
This is Uncle Fester right here.
Exactly. Yeah. But seriously, I mean, the system where these judges would have this type of dread power, and let's remember, I mean, I want to know the full tale of how many. Was Carter Page the only person that was unfairly targeted by this court? Was he targeted because by targeting him alone, were the people who targeted him then able to cast such a wide net as a result of this one, what appears to me to be illegal process? I mean, this should scare anybody, that this kind of stuff was going on, actually not briefly under Obama, but so extensively under President Trump's tenure. I mean, this should scare the living daylights out of anybody who's thoughtful.
Because you think that Trump is aware of it, or because you think the DOJ is out of control?
Because we've set up a system where we all thought the President of the United States ran the executive branch, was the commander-in-chief. In reality, some faceless judge would have the ability to torment
whoever they want.
The president. Whoever, exactly, or whoever we want. We really need to rethink all this. And Kennedy is calling for all of the applications against Carter Page to be released in their entirety.
See, the thing I wonder about Carter Page is that, you know, there's this whole thing where the lawyer and James Comey was like, never mind that. They changed it from he wasn't a CIA informant, or he was a CIA informant, to he wasn't a CIA informant. To what extent do we know if Carter Page was inserted into the campaign so that he could be the subject of a FISA investigation just to open this all up? Like, how do we know he's not an operational plant put there by the CIA?
We don't know. It's a lot we don't know, and that's.
I kind of feel like that's possible.
It could be possible.
He was a bit cagey when we met him, and he's taken to no longer responding to my emails. Not that I'm so important that he needs to respond to them, but he was very responsive at first. Perhaps I asked him something that made him think we're not going on that show.
We don't want to crowdsource the truth.
Yeah, we want to crowdsource the CIA's version of the truth.
Right. Crowdsource the narrative.
Exactly.
That's a competitive channel.
Right. I think I know who's on that channel.
Yeah. So then we have Comey attempting to defend. This is a Fox News summary of the Chris Wallace thing, which I didn't have a chance to watch. But I mean, what Comey is not, I don't think he's, I mean, he's clearly stupid, but I don't think he's completely clueless. So he must have some basis to think that he can fight back here. And it's incumbent upon those of us who want to get to the truth to try to figure out what support does he have. Is it that he knows his whole card is that Barack Obama knew all about this, and if you want to get me, I'm taking Barack Obama down, and we all know.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, it could well be.
Hillary, Barack, Bill, all of them.
Right, I'm not going down alone. If that's his defense, that's not going to work for him. But what I'm worried about is, did they get a shifty, incompetent Hillary Clinton-esque lawyer to come up with some cockamamie argument on paper that Barack Obama might have signed as president that you would say was not a pardon, but was tantamount to a pardon, and has the legal effect for some quirky set of reasons of being a pardon. Does he have that kind of protection?
That's right up their alley.
Yeah, and why were all of the people, given in this whole Hillary Clinton mishandling investigation, why were they given immunity agreements in exchange for nothing? Why were they allowed to bend all the rules in questioning? I mean, there has to be a legal framework, or what passes for a legal framework out there that we haven't yet seen, that gives these co-conspirators some comfort that they will in the end get away with this. And I'd like to know what that is. So then we have, out of Rudy, and I having spent time in Ukraine, a fair amount of time in Ukraine.
A lot of weird pictures of Rudy Giuliani. What's he got on the wall there?
That's in Ukraine. That's the way the artwork and the whatever in these fancy government buildings. But I believe most likely that Giuliani does have a tremendous amount of information that he is sitting on. He's waited for Schiff and everybody else in the mainstream press to attack him without knowing what he actually has. Now he's been invited by Lindsey Graham to now testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. So
Giuliani has?
Yeah.
This is quite a statement from someone, I mean, like him or not, Giuliani has quite a career as a prosecutor, and for him to say there's more evidence of Joe Biden's bribery than any case I've ever prosecuted.
Yeah, I would not, if I'm Joe Biden, I wouldn't be, going to the Bentley store or the Gulfstream
green bananas.
Yeah, Gulfstream Jet store and say, yeah, I think I'll get me one of them new ones. I'll get me a newfangled smoker. But I think, I'm waiting with considerable interest to see what it is that Giuliani actually has.
Indeed, this could be quite a thing. I haven't seen this interview with Giuliani. That's interesting. But it's also interesting to note the degree to which they're trying to smear these various people who would bolster Mr. Giuliani's evidence.
Yeah, on that one, I don't have the links, but this young and very attractive One American News person, Channel Rihanna, has... keep that up there, but I don't have the link for Channel Rihanna. She's got a three-part long set of YouTube videos about her traveling to Ukraine with Giuliani and what they found, and it's good. One American News is way in front in this story.
Yeah.
Which is good. This is a story where they're saying, possibly are they setting up a trap for Trump? Now, I heard Trey Gowdy has been now reinstated at Fox.
Yeah, why'd they get rid of him again?
Because he was going to be on the president's legal team, and you can't do that and be a Fox contributor at the same time.
So he left the legal team?
But I don't know exactly exactly why he was reinstated, but he's apparently been reinstated. And Gowdy makes the point that if you're the target of a criminal investigation, your first objective is to be acquitted. You don't want to start new fights. You just simply want to get acquitted as quickly as possible. And he makes a good point. And the further point he makes is that he needs a new haircut. No, he doesn't.
Well, his hair makes a point, is what I was going to say, Charles.
Yeah, both the hair on top and then the beard on bottom. I don't understand this look, but what am I supposed to say?
It's the Papa Smurf look.
I'm not a fashion icon. But anyway, Gowdy's second point is that if Trump wants, after he's acquitted, to deal with illegal acts of Comey, Brennan, and others, he can do that. I mean, Durham's prosecuting. He doesn't need to conjoin the effort. He can just acquit himself in the Senate as quickly as possible if it goes to the Senate, and move on. Don't try to fight new battles in the Senate. And I think there's an element of truth that I do worry about the grandstanders, and Bannon has been thumping the table on his War Room show about what's really going to happen here is the second this goes to the Senate, people across the aisle are going to say, what can we get out of Trump?
Right.
They're going to say, people who would vote to acquit are going to say, well, I may need another airport, or I need this, or I need that,
That's terrible.
Well, that's the way it works in the swamp.
And do you think that Steve Bannon created that show because he's incredibly jealous of your amazing podcast?
No, I think he's...
It's possible.
Anything's possible. But
anything's possible.
So we have... this is roughly 2 years to the day that Honey and Barry Sherman were found.
Oh,
that's the next one. Not this. Yeah, it's okay. And our Canadian... One of our good Canadian friends explained to me that this journalist who wrote the piece here is a highly regarded journalist. And my friend has also noted that in addition to these two billionaires who were found dead in their home in Canada, there was a doctor who was about to test, I think he was going to answer questions. He too was found dead.
That's interesting.
Not in, I don't know, it was Canada, might have been here in America. So what the Shermans may have been up to, likely involving Haiti, what really ever happened to any investigation of what has happened in Haiti with all this money that various people sent down to fix that island nation in 2010, what the Clinton role was in all that, we still don't know. And that's the case, the Haiti case, we're talking about $10 to $13 billion disappearing in theory on its way to Haiti. And that's disgusting.
Yeah. That's a lot of money. I heard that they're destroying the house, that the children are raising the house.
No, that's what this article says.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like this should just go away. I mean, we need to get to the bottom of what happened there. And we also need this Fox News had this Nancy Grace character, this one down here. Nancy Grace was on last night. I couldn't watch it, but she's somebody who's followed a lot of...
You didn't have time, or you couldn't stand to look at it?
I was on the phone.
Oh. I couldn't watch it, Charles.
Yeah. But,
Now, wait, she is a lawyer? Who is she?
She's an investigator. I guess she's had various shows, and she's saying it's... But it does. You don't have to be a genius to look at this and say, this just doesn't make sense. Why would somebody engaged in the highly suspicious activities that Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in for decades, why would he, unlike Roman Polanski, who is an asshole, but wisely elects to stay in France where he can't be repatriated to the United States, why would Epstein willingly get on a private jet, which would have had to file a flight plan, which would give the FBI all kinds of advance notice about, when he was going to get here, why would he come back to the United States? Why would he behave the way he behaved? And people who believe that we know the whole truth about Jeffrey Epstein's, in quotes, suicide are gullible.
Right.
It's just not the case.
Or part of the story, trying to sell the story.
Yeah.
Very stupid.
And then we have, Tucker has a piece with his business partner, Neil Patel, I think his name is, making a good point, and perhaps it's an obvious point, but it needs to be made hard. And that is that the organs of mainstream media, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, all these people who've been encouraging the masses to believe that there was something nefarious with Trump, those who spun the tale that Republicans, disruptors, needed to be disrupted in the 2018 election, have a lot to account for. I mean, it used to be that the people who wrote news did just that. They didn't let their personal opinions and biases infect the reporting. But now there is no news. The New York Times is disgusting.
Yeah.
And there are very few reliable traditional media outlets left.
There are any?
Yeah, just not many.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's none.
I mean, the Norwalk Hour, perhaps, and
Nobody's reading that.
in Norwalk they read it. And then I like this guy, Greg Jarrett. He was on last night, and of course he's in the book selling business, which is a fine business to be in. But he's dead right. I mean, the baggage that Biden has. I mean, forget about Hunter.
Corn pop, hairy legs,
Forget all that.
roaches,
Just go back
bleeding
to
eyes, teeth falling out.
What happened with his when he was young,
What
40
happened?
years ago? Well, whatever, 30 years ago, he dropped out of a presidential campaign because he had to admit he was a plagiarist.
What? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we start there, I mean, you taking this guy seriously?
When was he running for president?
88, I think it was. A long time ago.
Vice president with somebody, or who?
No, he was running for president.
Wow.
And a long time ago, and he had to drop out of the campaign because he
So what was that,
plagiarized.
against Bush? Against Bush?
He was against was it HW? He was a primary candidate. He never made it to obviously the final. Yeah, he plagiarized a Labor Party leader, Neil Kinnock's speech, and the guy's a loser basically.
Yeah.
To go out there and to think, I mean, here's a guy. Note to Joe, it's 2019. I don't think. I mean, I'm getting to be very old, and I remember malarkey.
Not very old.
Well, I remember malarkey as a kid.
Malarkey.
I doubt many millennials understand what malarkey is. I doubt many 40-year-olds have heard the word malarkey before. To say, I'm going to go across Iowa in a no malarkey tour. Like,
It's
okay,
just so stupid.
let us know when you get done with your vacation, because as far as I know, that has nothing to do with the campaign. I mean, what is malarkey?
I think his best writing is done off the cuff, kind of improv.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, fat, we're going to do push-ups. His eyes would explode after one push-up. I wish that guy would have agreed to do the push-ups. That would have been the end of the Joe Biden campaign.
I mean, it would be really funny. I know we're very busy with other initiatives, but it'd be really funny to take actual clips of Joe Biden, what he said, and then interpose them with, not to what the person he was saying, what he said. So you go, listen, fat, and then you cut the picture of Hillary Clinton, falling down or whatever, and put it to music. That would be funny. Anyway, if we go, I thought it would be useful on the next page just to take a brief digression. I know this slew of numbers is going to overwhelm some people. It's really not this is not going to hurt. I'll take people through it. People must be wondering, what the hell is Trump trying to do with his various tariff and negotiations around the world? It's helpful to look at hard facts, such as they may exist, for the key markets in the world. So the total amount, I'm not going to use the phrase that Roseanne Barr used against AOC, but I will refer to her as the bug-eyed bartender, not the word that the bug-eyed bartender wants us to spend $93 trillion on a Green New Deal. These are statistics from UNCTAD, which is a UN database thing that's free, and you have the link to it if you want to look through it. Every country in the world, 1970 to 2017, tells you how much citizens in each country spent, adjusted to dollars of the day, on consumption, government, household, on investment, on exports, on imports, etc. Very interesting stuff. For the entire world, the bug-eyed bartender wants us to spend $93 trillion on a Green New Deal. The entire world, everybody in the world in 2017 spent $46 trillion.
Well, but Charles, when you were at Dillon Reed and needed to make these type of multi-billion-dollar decisions, you would regularly go to the coffee restaurant and ask the 20-year-old waitress what to do,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. No, or I'd go and find a convenient monkey. Right. I'd just say, and I'd put like red or black, and which do you point to? Okay, that means buy. I mean, it's just not sell. But so we look at this and we say, so everyone around the world, their annual purchases in total are $46 trillion, okay? 2017. So growth in consumption, when Trump was just, this, you could say that in 2017, the growth that was occurring was not due to Trump himself. He had only been sworn in January 20th, and a lot of the programs that were in place were put in place by other people. So the economy is just beginning to lift more. We won't see the 2018 data until later this year, maybe next year. But this shows the whole world grew at 5%. Most importantly, it shows that the United States, people in the United States accounted for 29% of all the consumption. Our population is less than, let me get this right, our population is about 4% of the world's population, yet we consume 29% of everything out there.
That's why everybody's so fat.
Exactly. Listen, fat. Exactly. But the point being that if you're sitting there as a real businessman, not a bug-eyed bartender, and you're trying to say, well, is this market, the U.S. market, is there something distinctive about the U.S. market? Yeah, it's distinctive that we buy a lot of shit in this country, and so if you're a serious business that wants to have market share, you better have a presence in the United States. And the fact that we have real business people as opposed to community organizers now in charge of the executive branch of our government suggests that perhaps this large market could begin to grow even more rapidly, faster than the rest of the world. Then you tick off the other markets. Trump, by getting this USMCA deal done.
Do you like that deal?
So, yeah, it's not signed yet, but it will be signed. The nations of Mexico, Canada, and the United States together are a third of all the consumption. That's a gigantic market.
Yeah.
Then you look at some other markets and you say, okay, Japan, the Japanese, they've got face issues and whiskey issues and all kinds of issues, Yakuza issues. They should be looking back at the period 1989 when they were on a roll at their peak, when their market was 40,000, now it's 23,000.
They were on a hand roll.
They were on a sushi roll.
Yeah.
And yet in this period 16-17, their consumption dropped by 2%. Still, they're 6% of the world's consumption. Germany's 4%. UK is another 4%. You add all these countries up here, the prime markets of the world together, excluding China, 60% of the consumption in the world. And that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 countries. So you set up a business to serve these citizens in 11 countries, you're going to get 60% of the world's consumption. There are 200 countries.
A lot of logistics.
Well, there's 200 countries, right? So all these unregulated globalists who want you to go to Papua New Guinea and St. Lucia and Bermuda and all these other places, I mean, fine places to visit, but you don't need to set up a business. Instead, you can go to 5% of the countries in the world, 5.5% of the countries, and get 60% of the world market. Right. And then if the Chinese ever want to get serious, they're now a big percentage of the population, but only 10% of consumption. Interestingly, I put Russia in green because you look at the consumption up 22% in 17, a year in which heavy sanctions were placed on Russia.
Well, what accounts for that?
Well, I think actually Vladimir Putin and his people are pretty clever people. There's some smart scientists smart people in Russia, and that is a market. It's small in financial terms, but it's a market that's growing, that from which we said in the past Russian companies could export to Europe if they got through all this messing about one way or the other. And it's almost as if Shifty Schiff and Comey and Brennan and Clapper and all those people want us to be at odds with Russia.
Right.
So they can continue to sell their defense systems and their fancy consulting and all that kind of stuff. And when you look actually at the hard facts, despite the sanctions, they don't seem to be working.
John Mark Dougan said that when these sanctions came about, lots of couldn't get European beer or something, so a lot of Russian microbreweries opened, and now Russian microbrew beer is super popular. I mean, that's a big country, as you said, a lot of smart people, a lot of history of education, and a lot of natural resources. So countries like that, the people tend to react to sanctions by saying, like, sort of like, screw you, we'll just do it ourselves.
Right. Maybe we should visit.
Yeah.
But you never know. That could happen. So if we go to the, back into the Clinton stuff.
Next page, you mean?
Yes, please. There was a very interesting discussion on television that I saw of this issue of consciousness of guilt. There's evidence out there that will allow prosecutors, if you behave in certain ways, to say, because of your behavior, you were conscious of your guilt, and that's why you covered up, that's why you did the various things, and you can mount prosecutions. This is an excerpt from a New Jersey-based law firm, riddled with their website was riddled with typos, but I tried to fix them. But
you definitely want a lawyer who can't spell.
Right, exactly. But I put a few things here. You know, there's what kind of evidence creates this potential for a consciousness of guilt argument? Have we seen any of this, Jason, in the Clinton case? Hiding or destroying evidence? Seen any of that? Or bribing a witness? Seen any of that? Or intimidating a witness, or God forbid, killing a witness?
Yeah.
Have we seen any of that?
You're not allowed to kill witnesses?
No.
Oh.
So, with that in mind, and lawyers will think about this, we heard out of Dopey, James Comey, on the mishandling case, that there was no credible prosecutor would mount a prosecution of Hillary Clinton because she didn't show the requisite intent to commit mishandling of classified information, which is just total rubbish, right? But as we think about this long, gigantic amount of evidence that we put out on 194 preceding shows, do you think there are any examples that I might be able to point to of consciousness of guilt in the record, Jason?
I think so, or you wouldn't be asking.
Yeah, so let's go to the next page where we might have a few examples.
Absolutely. And you know, Charles, we are having some of our commenters on Crowdsource the Truth 2 utilizing Super Chat. I definitely want to thank Cheryl Ann. She's wishing us a Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you.
And the social engineers will never keep her away. So thank you very much, Cheryl Ann.
Thank you very much indeed. So on the 25th of April in 2005, the original entity called the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation lodged a slip of paper into the Secretary of State's office in Arkansas that purported to change the name of the entity to the William J. Clinton Foundation, right? So if you've done this in your home state, you would think that they wouldn't be using any other name in other states. You would think they would be using their official address and their new name.
You'd be wrong.
And you'd be wrong. Because this is just 16 examples after April 25th, 2005.
It's only one less mistake than the FBI, so they're better than them.
That's right, that's why I picked 16. So here's 16 different examples of various and sundry people, including, in the first case, BKD, I call it AWP, which stands for Accounting Work Product in my mind. They issue, you can't call it an audit because it's like toilet paper, it's not an audit. On the 30th of June 2005, they address their accounting work product to something called William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, Inc. No such entity has ever been created anywhere, but the august accounting firm of BKD says, we'll just issue you a fake audit for a fake company. Nobody will ever check it. And we won't check, let's say, the legal paperwork on the Clinton Foundation to notice that its name had been changed April 25th, 2005, approximately 2 months before they issued this audit. And they wouldn't stop to think at BKD, because they're so stupid there, I guess, that the issuance of this audit that would then be flown around the world to various and sundry people would lend credibility to the fraud that is the Clinton Foundation, and therefore drag potentially BKD in as a defendant, civilly and criminally.
Oops.
Once people get cotton on to what's really happening. So this is the first example. This is interior. This happens, let's just say it's the Little Rock office of BKD sending a letter to the Little Rock-based William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, Inc., which doesn't exist. But then on July 1st, they send filings in under penalties of perjury signed by Andrew Kessel, the CFO, and Bruce Lindsay, the CEO, to South Carolina. Now, South Carolina is a hanging state. Their charity laws are really rough. And you'll notice here, I put a few details in here that in the one that went on July 1st, 2005 to South Carolina across state lines, they say that their address is 303 President Clinton Avenue.
303?
Yep.
Ooh.
And it's and the zip code they use is 72201. In Colorado, where they send a form, Rutherford, the CEO, sends on the 30th of September, he says, no, using the mail, my address is 303 President Clinton Avenue, 72203. Oh. And somebody who is gullible would say, it's just an honest typo.
Right.
Somebody who's a cynic like me and a numbers nerd like me would say, no. The reason they're doing this is to set up as many fake bank accounts as possible. So if you have, an entity with a name that sounds right and you use an address with one zip code, then you change it a little bit, go to a different bank. Now you have another bank account, and now you have that's the game in charity fraud, that you solicit money from all sorts of sources. It gets sent into close to the foundation, and then you hive off as much as possible to finance political campaigns and lifestyle and who knows what else.
Is hiving and skiving different?
Those are all the same word family.
Got it.
So then you see, this is just instance after instance. I don't want to go through every single one of these because I'm mindful of the time, but this is just in one short period in 2005. Why did in every single case, if they had changed their name to the William J. Clinton Foundation, why did the dean of the Clinton School of Public Service, Skip Rutherford, screw up all these forms? Is he that stupid?
What do you mean, scrub all these forms? From where?
These are forms going into the government agencies, these state governments, saying, this is my report on my entity. I don't even know the name of my entity. I'm going to give you the wrong name, because I'm that stupid.
Right.
But I'm the dean in Rutherford's case, I'm the dean of the Clinton School of Public Service. In Kessel, I'm stuck on stupid as the chief financial officer. In Lindsay, I was this really high-powered guy and the lawyer, and my name's on the door of a big law firm in Little Rock, and I was Bill Clinton's personal legal advisor while he was president. Getting all the stuff wrong this many different times, I think, shows consciousness of guilt. You knew you hadn't changed the name of the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation to the William J. Clinton Foundation, but you wanted to use this William J. Clinton Foundation as yet another name for another set of bank accounts to hive and skive off money, right? And these are the forms that a bunch of us were able to get. We haven't tried to, we're not the FBI. The FBI should be able to get every single freaking form that was filed here. Yeah. And these are just some of the errors. There are many, many errors that rise to the level of criminal errors in these filings, because you're using the mail to send information across state lines that's false and materially misleading while you're raising money in each of these states. You're sending in your IRS form is all wrong. And there BKD had an idiot put his name signing the form. So I think BKD should have substantial criminal and I think civil, ultimately as well, legal exposures for its central role enabling this fraud. If we go to the next page.
What you're saying, Charles, it takes me back for a moment to James Comey's thing with Chris Wallace, where he's like, well, they were mistakes, and he's trying to make light of it, but at a certain point it's criminal negligence. You can't be the FBI and make mistakes all over the place and just chalk it up to whoops.
Right, yeah, it's like, oh, you mean you've been in prison for murder for 25 years and we nearly killed you, and you were innocent? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You'll have another life.
What if your airline pilot made 17 mistakes? What if your doctor made 17 mistakes? What if your lawyer made 17 mistakes and you're in jail and they're like, oh, well,
Yeah, or, if you travel and you make a reservation for a suite and they give you a dumpster, you get extra benefits, right?
You get to sleep with garbage. That's a benefit, Charles. You sure you're not in marketing?
Yeah. Come stay in our dumpster. Pay for a suite. Anyway, this is I want to take a few seconds on this one because this is important. In the past, and people who want to understand the significance can go back to this piece I did in 2016, concentrating on Clinton Foundation facts, which explains, you don't have to pull it up, it explains the significance of the organizational test and the operational test and what that all means. But staying for a second, did they or did they not change the name? The way you have to change the name of a corporation in Arkansas is you have to file a certificate of amended name, and you should, in fact, amend your articles of incorporation. That's the controlling organizational document. The bylaws are less important, but the articles are very important, right? So originally they said, on 23 October 1997, the three lawyers who filed the articles of incorporation but did not organize the Clinton Foundation, said in Article 1, the name of the corporation, here it's important to notice, the corporation is lowercase, and then in parentheses they say, which is hereinafter referred to as the uppercase corporation. That's important because that's a defined term, meaning that throughout the balance of the articles of incorporation, every time you see the word corporation, what they mean to say is the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. So when you amend that paragraph, you need to make sure that you had been using corporation as a defined term. These idiots, Bruce Lindsay and others, who amended the Articles of Incorporation, instead of doing it properly, they said the name of the organization, not corporation, and they left out this defined thing, is the William J. Clinton Foundation, but they didn't change a word of the original Articles of Incorporation, which means that all the other bits and pieces of the Articles of Incorporation, every time it says corporation, is referring to the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation.
Pretty clever.
So this is horrible. I mean, this is the kind of, I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, even I could pick this up right away. This approach, by deleting the reference to corporation, means that they have gutted the Articles of Incorporation. This does not have a meaningful Articles of Incorporation.
But that's a slick lawyer move to do that.
Yeah, well, now, if we just hit this link here, which we've shown people in the past, but let's hit, so people see what I'm talking about. This is the original, what purports to be the application for tax exemption. I doubt it is the full application. I suspect there was correspondence back and forth that we don't have. But if you go several pages in, Jason, you'll see what I'm talking about. The Articles of Incorporation should come up momentarily. Right, next. This is showing that it was incorporated, but not, and there you see it, the top. Articles of Incorporation of the William J. Clinton President. You see it's October 23rd, 1997 at 11:22, and it's this paragraph I was talking about. The name of the corporation is the William J. Clinton, and it says, which is hereinafter referred to as the corporation. Just go a little bit down the page, if you would, Jason. See, the period of the corporation uppercase, the purposes for which the corporation uppercase. All of this would have to be amended, right? And it wasn't amended. And we keep going down, you'll see the bylaws come next. If you're going to amend your articles, you got to amend your bylaws to make a corresponding set of changes. And you'll see in a second, here come the bylaws. Here. That's articles. Next one. Keep going, we'll be after this. Here come the bylaws. Here. Okay, top of the page, these are the bylaws. And this remained outstanding. They changed the articles, but the bylaws from April 25th forward are the bylaws for something called the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, meaning that the new entity, the William J. Clinton Foundation, didn't have bylaws, which means it didn't qualify to be a corporation, which means it failed the operational and organizational tests April 25th, 2005. Okay? This is a bonehead maneuver. This is a maneuver where they just say, well, law, F that. Yeah. You know, we got Lois Lerner in the IRS. We don't need to worry about this. We've got holdovers in the Justice Department, and Hillary's going to be the next president eventually, so we're just not worried. So we go back into the slide. I'm going to show you some another slick moves. So this is interesting. In the articles say that the corporation is going to be managed by a board of directors that will be known as a board of trustees. And the number cannot be, it can be increased from 3, but it can't go lower than 3. The reason they say that is that under most state laws, but under Arkansas law in particular, you cannot operate a corporation with fewer than 3 directors. If it's fewer than 3, a nonprofit corporation, it just doesn't qualify. So that's why at all times it has to be 3 or more. Now, in this period, from April, well, before April 25th, 2005, they didn't adopt the bylaws until December 23, 1997, which means they operated, I would argue, not as an organization for 62 crucial days, when the Clintons selected, Bill and Hillary selected the Little Rock site, among others. They were not trustees. They had no power to do what they manifestly did do. They never filed a tax return in 97. In numerous filings, they never used their correct legal name, which was always the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. They didn't use the right addresses. And it's really unclear in this early period, before April 25th, 2005, who had control over all these bank accounts. So lots of bank accounts in different state forms everywhere. Who was making sure that money that went into these bank accounts or checks that were supposed to be cashed and used for the foundation actually were used for the foundation and not for Hillary and Bill's campaigns and living expenses.
Right.
So if we go to the next page.
You forgot the living expenses. I won't even go into what they include.
Yeah. So I couldn't find an earlier version of the Arkansas Code, so I don't know precisely what the provision was before 2010. But by 2010 and afterwards, it says the bylaws get adopted, but they cannot be inconsistent with law or the Articles of Incorporation. And I just got through telling you that April 25th, 2005, they got this because the articles are for something called William J. Clinton Foundation, the William J. Clinton Foundation. The bylaws remain unchanged as relating to the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. And now you're going to see some other problems that they made, that they had with the bylaws. So if we want to see the real IRS filing that the Clinton Foundation made concerning 2005, we have to go to ProPublica. If we hit this link, it should go right to it. So the day after the election in 2006, the Clinton Foundation files this version, which should come up, yeah. You see it, November 8th, 2006. They file this version saying that their name is William J. Clinton Foundation. Now, its real name is the William J. Clinton Foundation, but they say it's William J. Clinton Foundation. More significant, however, if you go down to page 40 or so. You're going to see some bylaws. It's right after this page. There, 42. Here you see the top of the page, the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation amended and restated bylaws. Right? And you'll see there's a lot of text here. Okay? So this is, in the one that goes to the IRS, it is received November 8th, 2006, and it contains these restated and amended bylaws. In theory, restated and amended. I'm going to show you how ridiculous they are in a second. Now let's go back into the slide. Then we hit the Clinton Foundation version that's up on their website, and we try to find the bylaws, Jason.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess they're not here.
They're not here.
So we want to go to page 42.
Well, this has an audit that the other thing didn't have. So this adds like a 19-20-page audit, but this version does not have the bylaws.
What's the significance of that?
Because the bylaws are incredibly incriminating because they're all fucked up. And if we actually go back to the very top of the page, top of the thing, page 20 or so. Remember I said the version that's filed with the IRS is dated November 8th. What is this one? Go back the other way. At the bottom of the next, what date do you see here?
Looks like the 20th.
So why would they do this? Why? This is consciousness of guilt. You know there's a fuck up with the bylaws. You don't want the general public to see this.
You sure they weren't just preparing Christmas dinner?
I'm quite sure of that. They don't celebrate Christmas, I don't think.
Baphomet dinner?
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't want the few curious. Now, Michael Smith was somebody who spotted this in Australia a long time ago, but most mainstream journalists, certainly mainstream journalists, would never bother to look at this. So we go back into the slide, and both versions say the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. Remember, they changed their name April 25th, 2005. Why would you still be referring to this as the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation? They changed the bylaws 25 April 2005. Now, the real version of the bylaws includes gibberish. Section 22 and Section 23 of Article 2. The Board of Directors may appoint persons to serve as a committee of trustees. Now, the controlling articles, which are senior in status to the bylaws, state that the affairs of the Clinton Presidential Foundation will be managed by a board of trustees. This says, in direct contradiction, no. You could create a committee of trustees that can basically do whatever the board of directors tells them to do, and 23 says that they really have no authority to act on behalf of the foundation. This is in stark contradiction to the articles, which had not been amended by this point. And if there were a real IRS and a real Justice Department, and if dopey James Comey and lawyer Rosenstein and lawyer Mueller had not just spent 4 years investigating the Clinton Foundation, they would have noticed a lot of problems. It says here that the grand jury was convened to investigate the Clinton Foundation, and that the investigation ended sometime in 2005. I think the reason the FBI vault file says that is the FBI really doesn't want to admit that Comey and Rosenstein and Mueller missed this obvious thing. Now, to take it a step further, now this link may not work, and we may have to go in and change it, but let's try this link for a second.
To say that they missed it is the same kind of thing as Comey saying, "Oh, this was a mistake. We didn't."
Yeah, we missed it. Now that you found it, we missed it.
Right.
All right, so here you have to punch into the FEIN box. This one here.
Sorry, the page is not.
311580204. And we hit Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton, and hit them again.
Exactly.
And then hit founding documents. Okay. And you will see, this is really interesting. This is classic. You know, remember, this is Xavier Becerra is in charge of this.
Oh, he's
the Attorney General. Yeah. So this is you see this looks like an old thing. They're May of 1998. They're registering to operate in California. Go down the page a little bit. Go down several pages, and you will encounter the bylaws. And it's really curious what you see in here. There you go. So this is Articles of Incorporation. You see. Keep going down here. You'll get this is like 6 or 7 pages of that. Then you get to keep going, and now next page is going to be okay. Here are the bylaws, right? Mm-hmm. Let's go slowly down. You go through the bylaws. You're going through them all. These are for the original thing, and you're meandering through this. Probably another 10 pages of this. And suddenly you're going to get to the amended version. Now remember, the amended version wasn't done until 2006. So how does it end up in the founding documents section? These are documents that were produced in '97. How does the amended version end up here? And is it the complete amended version? So stop. So here we see at the top here, here's the amended and restated bylaws, right? And if we start scrolling down here, you'll discover that it ends, there's a lot of missing stuff. It ends on like page 18, I think, of the bottom. Let's see, 4, 10, 11, 12. Back, sorry. Yeah, keep going.
Charlie Daniels.
Yeah, it
does went down to
does
Arkansas.
everything. Yeah. So it's a lot more than 13 pages, but they only slip in the first 13 pages of the amended version, in a place where it shouldn't be. How do you do this?
Unlucky for some.
Somebody, this is again, consciousness of guilt. Why do you leave out key pieces of information in California? New York doesn't have any of this in their files. I made a Freedom of Information Act request on Friday, where they don't have the original bylaws or the amended bylaws. So you can't operate a charity without bylaws. And if you were sitting there in two of the largest states in the union with very high tax rates, and you cared to regulate Democrats and Republicans and independents all the same way in a level playing field, you'd say, wait a minute, this thing is not a corporation. Its articles of incorporation are crazy and they don't jive with the bylaws, and the bylaws don't actually exist. You'd shut it down back in 2005, if not earlier. So if we go back in to the next page. All right, let's go back. Remember this whole idea, consciousness of guilt. What's missing? Are people dying? Are witnesses being intimidated? Are bribes happening? John Glasgow, I didn't bring that up. November 2004, Hillary says, you know what, I'm going to seek re-election for the Senate. So Rutherford, this is my working theory, Skip Rutherford, the president of the Clinton Presidential Foundation, says, well, I better lie to the National Archives, because if they knew the truth about what you've been doing,
it might upset them.
We wouldn't be able to get this construction and bank fraud deal done, and have the double wide open and the IMAX theater and the penthouse apartment. We wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff.
Love those IMAX movies.
So we go ahead and we better, to hide, we're going to need a lot of money, we need a lot of bank accounts everywhere, so let's pretend we're changing the name, but flub that up. Let's get this idiotic firm BKD to give yet another piece of crap audit. And then let's pump together a merger. When we get turned down by the IRS for this chai to fight HIV and AIDS as a charity, because it's all wrong what we've done, why don't we put together a merger document that we're going to file in Arkansas with the Secretary of State at midnight? Now, we have lots of documents that have been filed.
At midnight?
None, except for this fake.
They love filing things at midnight.
You can't do that, right? So this merger was clearly concocted, and they found some timestamp machine or something, change it, that they could change, and they file this. And they say the merger is between something that was never lawfully organized, the William J. Clinton Foundation at that time, December 28, 2005, and Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative, Inc., which also wasn't organized lawfully.
So that's something of a timestamp hack.
A timestamp hack, exactly. Then early in February, remember George Papadopoulos has that meeting with Alexander Downer at the wine bar, and you're not allowed to question, anybody who's saying anything good defending the Clintons, right, and attacking Trump. You can't question the motives of a person who signs a memorandum of understanding in Sydney on February 22nd, 2006 with Bill Clinton, that Bill Clinton had no authority to sign, that commits the government of Australia to send $25 million beginning in February 2006, when Hillary needs that money to win her primary challenge and then her campaign against Spencer in the guy last name Spencer in the November 2006 Senate re-election contest. So Downer bellies up to the bar and gets the Australian government to sign up for 25 million Australian towards this scam charity. So of course BKD gets together and says, well, we got to cover that up. We'll give you another crazy audit. We'll sign our name to the tax form, Form 990, that says we got no government grants in 5, 6, 7. BKD's name's all over that, when of course Downer's pumping money in towards the Clinton, other governments pumping it in. 19th of September, Unitaid, this new slush fund set up in Geneva, they decide that they're going to make a grandiose announcement and send hundreds of millions of dollars to this chai, which doesn't exist. The 7th of November, Hillary wins by a huge margin. The 8th of November, the tax filing that we talked about is false and materially misleading. Hillary decides that she's won a mandate to be a senator from the representing New York, and that she's going to do that job in January of 2007 for a grand total of 19 days before she says, my new term, yeah, about that, I won that, I'd rather be president of the United States. Now, there's no chance that she was trying to line up the money to have a commanding lead against any other Democrat by milking this foundation, because that's not the way they roll. I mean,
No.
by the book, right?
Yeah.
So, starting in March, they start sending, Unite, that is, sends tens of millions of dollars to an entity that doesn't exist, Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative. And I believe at once Boris Johnson lights a fire underneath his now subordinates in government, we're going to discover that the workaround for covering off this money that was routed to Hillary Clinton, I think, through the charity, was to get compliant, in quotes, allies in this criminal conspiracy in the UK to just fudge the creation of this subsidiary they created starting in May of 2007 in the UK, wherein they give a subsidiary of the Clinton Foundation authority to do stuff that the parent doesn't have. And you can't do that. You can't say, well, I'm in the United States and I have limited authority. What I'll do to get around the rules is I'll go to another country, set up a subsidiary, and give that subsidiary to the right to do anything I want. That's just not the way it works in theory.
Oh.
But Blair
In
is
theory.
yeah. So Blair is still the prime minister in the time period where this illegally organized subsidiary gets incorporated in England. The 27th of August, they sign another bullshit piece of document in Arkansas where they claim the board of directors, which of course didn't exist on the 27th of August 2007, it was still a board of trustees, had voted to amend the Articles of Incorporation, but they only filed that paper on the 8th of July 2008. And my reading of Arkansas law, I'm not a lawyer, is that you have a limited window to file a document like this. You can't have a secret board decision, August 27, 2007, and then just only file your paper 8th of July 2008. So, I'm just one dude, distracted with lots on my mind, and I'm pulling all this stuff and sharing it with you, the audience. Imagine what a real FBI could do, not the Comey FBI, which is, oh, I was wrong, we were wrong about all that.
No, we weren't.
No, it doesn't matter. Look at this banana over here. Anyway.
Yeah. He's like, did you see the new Lego Star Wars toys are out?
Yeah, exactly.
It's Christmas.
Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
I'm going skiing. So I think when we think about whatever indictments are going to come here, and John Durham and the U.S. attorneys are not in the business of writing reports, other than internal reports. They're in the business of securing indictments and winning convictions and prosecutions. And if they write reports, it's a declination report that the public doesn't get to see, which would be, typically, it would be, we've decided not to go forward for this reason, and people sign off on it. But you don't ever get to see that, because if you issue those type of reports, then you're falsely, potentially smearing the target of that inquiry.
Right.
And the target doesn't get a chance to defend him or herself. So I want to see, when we get into this, if there are going to be prosecutions, I think somebody who really needs to be investigated heavily is this Maura Pally. We hit her link, LinkedIn link.
Maura Pally.
Yeah, and this is brazen to me. And LinkedIn, I know, is probably, this Microsoft owns it now.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But if you look at the first thing, here
That's
she's...
interesting.
Simultaneously, she says, she's the executive vice president of the Clinton Foundation.
Ooh.
While she is also the executive director of the Office of Hillary Clinton. In the beginning here. Office of Hillary, sorry, May 2013, December 2014. Then she transitions, January, to being this executive vice president of the Clinton Foundation. What exactly was she doing?
Well, she was also in the State Department.
Right.
And
why?
Bloomberg.
Right.
Yeah.
This is somebody who knows a lot. She's one of the many people who, quote, know where the bodies were buried, literally.
She was the acting assistant secretary of state?
Yeah.
That's pretty highly placed.
Right, look at this. She was deputy general counsel of the campaign.
Wow.
So the links between the campaign side of Hillary's life and the foundation side of her life and the corruption side of her life and, whatever side, speech-making side of her life, I don't think it is credible to state that a senior person like Maura Paley could hold all these roles inside something that was supposed to be a public charity and not know that the Clinton Foundation, between November 2nd, 2013, the Clinton family, between November 2nd, 2013, she's a lawyer, remember, she could not know that the Clinton family had seized control illegally via another amendment to the bylaws of Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation, November 2nd, 2013, forward. She had to have known that.
Charles, JJ6545 on Periscope is telling us that LinkedIn is a Bilderberger. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
Bilderberg thing? I mean, if
no,
it's owned by Microsoft, it's owned by Bill Gates, so that's correct.
Well, it's owned by the company, Microsoft.
I guess Bill Gates doesn't really own Microsoft anymore, but
He's got a big share.
probably has influence over them.
A little bit. Yeah. Might have the ability to reach the CEO.
Yeah. Also, she's the managing politics and public policy person at Oxygen Media, which is a women-oriented cable TV channel, and she's into women's studies, so she's probably one of these people who you're guilty because you're a man.
It could be. And she went to the Color of Horseshit University.
The what?
Color of Horseshit University.
Yeah, she's down with Brown. I saw that. Interesting, of course. I wonder if she likes the London School of Economics.
So, I mean, we have, this is a memo. Michael Smith, again, did great work in February of 2016, where she memorializes in this memo that, you know, look, Ira Magaziner and the folks at Chime may have all these complaints against Bill Clinton and Clinton Foundation, but you need to remember that Ira Magaziner, in effect, and Anil Soni diverted, and another way of using that phrase would be to say stole $23 million, and we had to cover that up before the election because we couldn't have that come out. So we just took another slush fund, a so-called quasi-endowment, and we raided that quasi-endowment to cover up the fact that they stole this money.
The founder of LinkedIn is a Bilderberger.
Oh, sure, I don't doubt that. Who's the founder?
Don't know. We could probably find that out pretty quickly.
Anyway, so Maura Paley is somebody who deserves to be under the microscope. I think Eric Braverman, again, we can hit his LinkedIn there. Eric Braverman is somebody who has got an incredible resume. But the real question here is, why did he start July 2013 at the Clinton Foundation, having been a partner at McKinsey, friend of Chelsea? Why did he get recruited from McKinsey, where he was making a lot of money, to go in to be CEO of the Clinton Foundation, have his contract renewed by December of 2014, only to resign by January 9th, 2015? I mean, this guy's a Yale Summa graduate, I think, Yale Law School graduate, got a lot of credentials and a lot of experience. He needs to be sworn in front of some FBI agents. He needs to be told, listen, if you lie to the FBI, each time you do it, you're going to go to prison. And he needs to be asked some very tough questions. And if he's not, then we'll know that any Durham-related investigation is not serious.
Yeah, he still likes the Clinton Foundation, so that's kind of strange.
He's probably getting some, you know.
Like it or else.
Yeah, exactly. You will like this.
Encouragement, was that the word you were looking for?
Reaching there for encouragement, yeah. Yeah. So what consciousness of guilt does he have? And then we have the Simpson-Thatcher thing. So here, the real name of Simpson-Thatcher is as spelled. If you hit the WikiLeaks, look, there's been various and sundry stories about how the Comey, his name, if you search on Corny, and similarly, if you go to the top of this page, you'll see I searched on Simpson-Thatcher misspelled with a T. I
thought that was how you spell it.
No, there's no second T there. And here you have this. Remember, this AJ66 is Chelsea, and here you have subjects about, let's have a debriefing session, an oral debriefing session, before we issue a first report.
Sounds like something John Podesta would ask for.
Yeah, well, involving Hillary and Terry McAuliffe and Bill and Chelsea.
It's not getting better.
And this is a technique that people will use when they think they're being really clever. Lawyers will study something, and they won't write their conclusions down. So they haven't reached any conclusions. then you have a meeting with them where you have a discussion. I'm just having a discussion. I'm saying to you, Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea, you're fucked. Everything we've done is wrong. We can put this in a memo and you'll go to jail for a serious amount of time. Or let's figure out how we game the report. So let's say you suggest to us that you don't have the budget for us to study any of the serious international problems or state law problems outside of Arkansas that you may have, and we'll then do a circumscribed report to you that says everything's fine. If you assume away all your problems, then of course you're in great shape.
It's Podesta telling them this?
No, it's Simpson Thatcher, the lawyers are getting, these are a series of emails people can read, scheduling a meeting in Chappaqua to get this oral debrief. You see, it's Wednesday debrief is an oral debrief that they get before they issue the first report that we have a copy of.
Got it. But Podesta is sending it. So.
Well, Podesta's acting chairman of the Clinton Foundation at this point.
Yeah, well, he's acting like a jerk as usual.
Yeah. So, you know, any real partisan, any real detailed analysis of the Clinton Foundation has to go into Simpson Thatcher's role, and it has to go in again to Kumiki Gibson's role. Now, if we hit her LinkedIn, you know, these are people who seem to get these exalted positions all over the place. She's now counsel to Andrew Cuomo, the governor.
Oh.
She was self-employed for 11 years, says 10, but 11, I think. Go down the page a little bit. In this period here, in 2008, she did the work for Bruce Lindsay at the Clinton Foundation. We'll show you what she concluded in a second. And she has all sorts of other experience at different law firms. So this is somebody who's not, she's a politically connected, she was at Williams and Connolly, just precisely in the period where the Clinton Foundation was created.
Oh.
Right, so maybe she had something to do with that.
Wait, she worked for the DOJ.
Right.
Until 1993.
Right.
So she knows Comey.
Yeah.
But that was Washington, D.C., not New York. Arnold and Porter, Honorable Clifford Scott Green. Harvard Northeastern. So where is that? Washington, D.C.?
I think that's in Boston.
Boston.
Okay. So if we go back into the slide, the reason I bring her name up is she authors this lengthy piece that we've seen before. It says, basically, the Clinton Foundation, this is authored in November of 2008, the Clinton Foundation can only continue to survive if President Clinton commits to staying active and to turning it into a real foundation. Well, in November of 2008, Bill Clinton was not an officer of the Clinton Foundation. He wasn't a trustee. He had no actual legal role as far as the paperwork's concerned, yet he was dominating the Clinton Foundation as the sum and substance of this thing. This thing should have been shut down, really, October 23rd, 1997, but Bill was president then. It certainly should have been shut down during the first FBI investigation, which ended in 2005. But by 2008, the concern is that Bill is, dominating this thing, and the paperwork's all screwed up. And the final question, to ruin Mr. Kessel's Christmas or holiday season, about a year ago, our acquaintances, our good friend Larry Doyle and John Moynihan, testified before Congress. And this zero hedge piece is worth hitting. Next one down.
Oops. I don't know why they keep coming out up here. It's very strange how it decides where to put these.
So this thing has only 494 shares, but let's see down the page, how many views did it have?
Oh.
Yeah, a few.
Wow.
1.4 million views.
I think it's impossible that only 400 people shared it.
Right.
This looks like a court building somewhere.
FBI in Little Rock.
Huh.
So Andrew Kessel is quoted right after Trump wins, but before the inauguration. He has a meeting in New York with the boys, and he was blindsided at the meeting, basically. And
why was he meeting with boys?
The boys.
Oh.
With Larry Doyle and Whitey.
I thought you meant David Boys.
No. And he's taken aback, And he does, at one reflective moment, he says to Doyle on one hand, well, I do know where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, anybody who would say something like that and who is not brought in under oath to testify, you know, it's just preposterous.
It's pretty stupid.
Well, he's pretty. This is a guy who's been CFO of the Clinton Foundation since April Fool's Day, 2004.
Fool officer.
Chief fool, yeah. He's a chief fool. That's why I could do that. I'm a fool. I can be the chief fool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to, you know, Durham should be talking to Doyle and Moynihan and
Maybe
others.
he is.
Perhaps he is.
They're all Boston guys, right?
Doyle and Moynihan are actually Worcester and Boston.
Oh, it's
and
kind
Cape.
of, you know.
Or they joke, and they won't get mad at me for saying it, they lovingly refer to themselves as massholes.
Right.
People from Massachusetts.
Worcester.
Yeah. So as we go into this important holiday, 10 days from now, and Hanukkah as well, and New Year's,
When
whatever.
is Hanukkah this year?
You're asking me?
I don't know. It's like a guessing game where Hanukkah, it's always some other date.
Yeah. So there's a lot resting on John Durham's shoulders, and in his team, and I'm sure he's got quite a team, because I think the reaction that sober people should have when they think about what they've heard from Comey and Schiff today and what they've heard from Horowitz is, we've been told one hell of a lot of lies by people in government, whether it's the Bush administration, now the Obama administration, and even under Trump, the Justice Department filled with holdovers, the FBI filled with holdovers, the IRS filled with holdovers. It's time for a government that costs us $6.5 trillion a year to start telling the truth and to start punishing people inside the government who are breaking the law and mounting this gigantic criminal conspiracy funded by we the people. Yeah. It's time for them to pay a serious price. And so it's on Durham and his team, it's on AG Barr, it's on President Trump to finally go through all this ground, go over this ground. Maybe I've made mistakes. Maybe, you know, I'm missing something.
I don't
Maybe
think
there's
so, though. We've had a lot of people scrutinizing what you've been saying, and so far no one has come back and said, hey, here's a substantial mistake.
Yeah, so I think it's on Durham, it's on Barr, it's on others. And I was very heartened to hear Barr in one of these interviews say, don't expect Durham to complete his work imminently. Right. We're talking spring, summer 2020. I was very heartened to hear the president say, as he did, it was really, you may not have heard this, there was some visiting president or prime minister from South America, and he got on the subject of Schiff and said it was a hoax, and then he turned his attention to Hillary Clinton and said, you know, she's as crooked as a $3 bill, and this stuff began before he went down the escalator in June of 2016 with a future First Lady. And I think Trump is absolutely right about that. I mean, to understand how badly this 30 years war against the average American worker, average wage earner around the world in the expensive countries, to understand what has been going on here, the degree to which these connected cronies have been scamming decent people who pay their taxes, who live hand to mouth, who don't have savings, so they can get even richer, manipulating markets, manipulating politicians, paying kickbacks, paying bribes and getting kickbacks. We've got to understand all the dirty laundry now, and people have got to be held to account. And so let's hope that happens.
I like these pictures of Trump pointing at things authoritatively, because he's probably saying, excuse me.
That's right.
Quiet.
That's right. You.
Yeah. I love it when he tells people in the press pool to stop talking. Things like that. Well, Charles, it's been another excellent episode. For people who are joining us now, we do have a bit of a reduced viewership because, unfortunately, these underhanded tactics of these malicious social engineers, they have some effectiveness, just like the idiotic liar Adam Schiff. He's also a social engineer. He's socially engineering the public, or large segments of it, to believe that Donald Trump has done something wrong. They use key techniques to constantly hammer talking points so that people who aren't paying that much attention get overwhelmed with that information. And it's the same kind of thing. So we need people to, more than ever, give the video a thumbs up, share it on their social media, email it to friends, and the most important thing that people can do, to help overcome what these social engineers are trying to do to Crowdsource the Truth is to become a sponsor. And if you've been watching Sunday with Charles for 2 years and haven't yet become a sponsor, now's the time. Go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You're going to get access to a huge library of sponsor exclusive content, and you're going to help keep the channel and shows like Sunday with Charles going. It's the right thing to do. So thanks, Charles, for another great episode. Tomorrow on the sponsor exclusive shows, we've got Light on Conspiracies with Ole Damagard, and Cody Snodgrass will be joining us. We've also got Unseen Libya with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty. So you're missing a ton of shows. If you're not a sponsor, you're getting like half of Crowdsource the Truth. So hopefully we'll see everybody there. Charles, we'll see you on Wednesday for Closing In, right?
Yes, sir.
We'll be back then. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us through the social engineering. Go get your Christmas shopping done. Oh yeah, there's tons of good stuff on redbubble.com. If you search for Crowdsource the Truth, you can buy mugs, t-shirts, etc. All good stuff. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.